Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about how much money you need to prepare in order for you to come here to Canada via a student visa. For the past 2 years, I've been asked about this a lot of times, so I thought I would make a video about it so everybody in the world could know. First, I'd like you to know that I am from the Philippines. I'm a Philippine citizen, so with that in mind, I'm going to show you 3 separate pricing for our entire video. One is for Philippine pesos, one is for US dollars so the rest of the world can relate, and one is for Canadian dollars, just in case maybe you have family here in Canada that like to sponsor your studies here in Canada. I'd also like you to know that there are 2 options that you can choose from when you want to come here via a student visa. Either you get what's called a normal student path or a student direct path. And really, the difference between those two is the price and the time it takes for the processing. In the normal path, this is the normal path that almost every student goes through, and it'll take at least 2 to 6 months of processing before you find out if you get the student visa or not. Whereas in the student direct stream, it only takes from 1 to 45 days. I got mine in less than 2 weeks. So I will only be able to tell you about the student direct stream because that's where I personally went through. And another biggest difference of the student direct stream versus just the normal student stream is that student direct stream, you need what's called a GIC. What it really is you're depositing money into a Canadian bank account, and that bank account will release funds for you when you come to Canada. It's like an assurance that when you come here, you will have enough money for you to go on with your studies without being interrupted. So you're like depositing money, telling the government like, hey, I'm gonna give you some money, and that's the money that I'm gonna be using for the rest of my semester, and I'm not gonna be a burden to the country, so you don't have to worry about me. And that is why it's easier to go through the student direct stream if you already have such money. Okay, so let's talk about all of the expenses. First, you need to spend on what's called an IELTS. It's an English language test. Going through the normal stream, not all schools require you to get an IELTS, but going through the student direct stream, you actually do have to have an IELTS even if your school doesn't require you to. So the IELTS will cost you 12,000 pesos or $240 or $300 Canadian. Then you need what's called an ECA. It's an educational credential assessment. And what happens here is that you will send your educational credentials to Canada in order for Canada to tell you what you are equivalent in Canada. For example, I studied in PUP Manila, that's Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and I have a bachelor's degree in accountancy. But if I come to Canada, what really is that? So I sent my diploma, my records of transcript here in Canada when I was still in the Philippines, and a service, either the WES, will tell you what its equivalent here in Canada, and they gave me a 4-year bachelor's degree as well. So in the Philippines, that would cost you around 9,000 pesos. In the US, it'll cost around $180, and in Canada, it'll cost around $225. Next is you need a medical certificate. This just shows that you're really just healthy, really. So it really depends from which country you're coming from. Me coming from the Philippines, I am required to show my medical records to them and that I am physically and mentally healthy. And in the Philippines, the recognized hospital for this is St. Luke's Medical Hospital, and it costs about 10,000 pesos in the Philippines, so that's around $200 in the US or $250 in Canada. So let's talk about show money. This is where it gets a little bit more expensive. Show money is literally just showing money to Canada that just proves that you can actually fund yourself when you come here and you won't be a burden to their country. And please do not come here if you really couldn't afford a student visa. It's really hard, but I do hope you can find a way. But it is really important for the government to understand that you will be able to sustain yourself here, and you for yourself should also be responsible enough to know that you have to bring enough money for you to be able to sustain yourself when you're here. No one wants to experience a hard life while studying, and I really hope you don't too. This is where the GIC comes in. You have to choose a bank. I chose CIBC. You're going to deposit money to them, and they're going to release portions of that money as the months go by when you already arrive in Canada. So for that, for a single person, you need 14,000 Canadian dollars. So that's around 11,200 US dollars, and in the Philippines, that's around 560,000 pesos. Please keep in mind that this is money that you will deposit into your Canadian bank account, and you won't be able to touch this at all until you arrive in Canada. And even if you do arrive here, you won't be able to withdraw the whole amount because they're only going to give you portions of that money. I got mine 1,000 per month, so it lasted me a year and 2 months. Another expense that you have are application fees for schools. Not all schools have this. Some just have an exam and you finally just know whether you're in or not. Some, you need to pay an application fee. I went to Seneca College and the application fee for that is around $90 Canadian. Let's just say, give or take, around 4,000 pesos. And in the US, maybe around $70. And lastly, you need to submit all of the above mentioned documents to the Canadian government, and you would do this via the CIC website. I'll put all of the links down below, including links for you to book your IELTS and your EC, and for booking your student permit application. So the initial application fee for booking a student permit is around 500 Canadian dollars. That was for me. Keep in mind, I am going through the student direct stream. And in Philippine pesos, that's around 20,000 pesos, and for the US, around 400. Given everything that we've talked about so far, we haven't even started school, and we haven't even landed in Canada. You are already looking at 615,000 pesos, or 15,365 Canadian dollars, or 12,290 US dollars. And that's just the beginning. So please make sure that you're already ready to spend that kind of money. I know it is a lot of money. It was really for me too. And please do note, even if you have all of this ready, this is not a guarantee that they will say yes. This is not a guarantee that you will be able to come into Canada via a student visa. This is just your official application. The Canadian government will look at your documents, see everything that you've passed so far, and see if you are eligible and if you are trusted enough to come into Canada and start your studies. So maybe in another video, I'll show you what kind of proof that you need, what kind of documents that you need to pass. But first, this video is just all about money. Let's say everything has gone good so far and you finally got approved for the Canadian student permit visa, and they took your passport, they stuck the visa into it, and they gave you back your passport, and now you're welcome to come into Canada. Let's talk about the money that you'll be spending when you finally decide to leave your country and come into Canada. First, let's talk about flights. Now, the flight costs really depend on where you're coming from around the world. Me, coming from the Philippines, I specifically spent 80,000 pesos. It is actually a two-way flight. You're supposed to buy a two-way flight, meaning you're gonna go there and you're gonna return. The reason why you need to buy a return ticket is because you don't really know. Yes, you have your visa. Yes, you have all the correct documents, but you still have to go through immigration. And they still have to find out if you're eligible to get into their country or not. So once you arrive to Canada, they still have to check that your documents are all in place. And if it doesn't match or something is off with your application and the immigration officer doesn't feel like you're a safe person to let into the country, they need to be sure that you will be able to return. And that's why you still need to buy a two-way ticket, even though you're probably not even going to use the return one. It's just what it is. Around 2,000 Canadian dollars, around 1,600 US dollars. Now let's talk about the school expenses. The school expenses really depend on what school you choose. I live in Toronto. I chose Seneca College. I spent around maybe 29,000 Canadian dollars. Let's just say, let's keep it at $30,000 on average. Some schools are actually much more expensive than this. So you really have to choose what school you're comfortable with. I took marketing, and I just think Seneca has one of the best marketing courses out there. But it really depends on you. Maybe you're on a budget and you're looking for something much cheaper, or maybe you really have a dream school that is quite expensive, but you know what? It's you do you. So let's just have an average of 30,000 Canadian dollars. So mine was around 7,000 Canadian dollars per semester. I only had 4 semesters. My expense was 1.2 million pesos. That's around 30,000 Canadian dollars. And for the US, it's around $24,000. It really is a lot of money. So please do keep that in mind when you apply. And you're not just gonna come here and pay for 1 month of rent. It also applies to like how you're renting in the Philippines. You need to pay upfront for at least 2 to 6 months, depending on what your landlord wants. Overall, you're looking at 3 months of worth of rent. You have to keep that ready. So 3 months of worth of rent, that's around 2,400 Canadian dollars, which is around 96,000 pesos and around 1,920 US dollars. Of course, you need a phone for internet and you have a way to go around and call people. That's around $100, which is around 4,000 pesos, maybe $80 in the US. And of course, you also have utilities, which is around $120 per month, which is 4,800 pesos or maybe $96 in the US. For commute, you might be able to get by with just purchasing one Metro card, which we call here a Presto card. That typically costs 150 Canadian dollars for students, and that is unlimited for the rest of your month because you can already tap it for both the bus and the subway. Given that your school is within reach of the train lines here called the TTC, you're looking at 150 Canadian dollars, which is around 6,000 pesos or 120 US dollars. And for groceries, you have to have at least a month worth of groceries for you to get by. So when you get here, that'll be around 300 Canadian dollars, maybe 240 US dollars, and in the Philippines, that's around 12,000 pesos. And your grand total is 40,346 US dollars, around 50,435 Canadian dollars, or in the Philippines, that's around 2,017,800 pesos. And just to be sure, I always tell people that you might be spending more than what you think. I am already just lucky enough to, live in an apartment where it's kind of fully furnished, but for some people, they still need to buy those furniture, they still need to buy a coffee maker, or they still need to buy basic detergent and everything else that goes with it. So please do keep all of those in mind when you come here. So anyway, I hope this helps you in deciding whether or not you want to come here to Canada. For me, it has been the ride of a lifetime. I already graduated and it is one of the best decisions that I've ever made with my life. So I hope this video helps, especially if this is something that you have been looking into, and if you are really interested in going through it. I wish you the best of luck and the strongest of your mental and your physical and your emotional capacity to do everything that it takes to finally study in Canada. So if this video makes sense to you at all, I hope you leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe, and do all of those fancy stuff in the comment section down below. And if you know someone who needs this information, please don't hesitate to share my video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!